On this week's GTA 6 o'clock, rumoured Lucia actress reactivates social pages.
If you were betting, do you think it's a good chance it's her?
GTA 5 zombie challenge crushed 800 million zombies. And 20 things you may have missed in trailer 1.
I would love the idea of being able to pick up a beach towel and go, wha-pow, wha-pow!
It's all here on this week's GTA 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to episode 45 of GTA 6 o'clock, the world's most in-depth and best connected GTA 6 show. I am your host, James JJ Jarvis, and joining me in the studio to talk all things Rockstar and GTA 6 this week is Dan DD Dawkins. Hello, Dan.
Hello.
So, Dan, we've got a few things, as we just talked about, to cover this week. But first, some feedback from last week that was actually sent in via a YouTube comment.
Yeah, so some comments on our last video that I thought would be illuminating and worth sharing with the wider community. So last week, we talked about Rockstar or Take-Two issuing content strikes against YouTube videos and tweets that mentioned leaks from a guy called Legacy Killer HD. You may know that name, you may not. We talked about this on last week's show. What I thought was interesting is the person who actually posted the videos added some context. So he said, hey guys, big fan, thanks for the plug. An important bit of info you missed. At the time of my Reddit post, the only videos that had been taken down were the ones about Legacy Killer HD's leaks, not random content. We said 6 tweets, 8 videos. After discussing with YouTube, they found my strikes had no grounds, so it was removed. The content that was removed didn't show any IPs belonging to Take-Two. It says I verified the 6 tweets and 8 videos myself. And it says, and he also put a little shout out for, because last week I said I have no opinion really on Legacy Killer HD. He said, Legacy Killer HD was one of the original people alongside Jason Schreier to drop the Project America's codename for GTA 6. While no one is 100% credible, he's brought a lot of source to the community. So there we are. So I don't know if he brings the source, I don't know what we bring.
The horse.
The meat on the horse. But I thought that was a little bit of context. I don't know if that means that that's saying that we should pay more or less credence to Legacy Killers HD's leaks. But I guess he is saying that he is respecting what he's done.
Yes. So thank you. That was Cyberboy UK who had those tweets and things copyright struck, who has got in touch. So thanks for getting in touch. If anyone else has anything that you want to comment on from last week or indeed this week's show, please leave them in the comments as we jump straight in to this week with a few smaller updates before we get to those big or small pieces from the first trailer and talk a little bit more about that. First up, yes, as we mentioned last week, zombies have arrived in GTA Online, or more specifically, they've arrived in North Yankton, the beloved place that we've all loved to go back to from the early missions of GTA 5. Of course, it's arrived just in time for Halloween. My questions were, did Rockstar think this would be popular? Yes, of course they did. Did they think it would be quite this popular? I am going to guess, no, they did not.
No, clearly not.
Now, why are we saying this? I think because for a multitude of reasons, and one of them is on October 10th, Rockstar set a community challenge to say, hey guys, if you go out and collectively slay 80 million zombies, you can earn some special in-game gifts. On October the 11th, there were some stats posted from Teds2 on Twitter or X, who said 400,000 players had played the new Londendorf Cemetery survival mode within 48 hours, which makes a 270% increase over the player count for the Assault on ATT 16 mode during the same period. So it's become massively popular, is basically what that says. And lo and behold, on October 12th, which is 2 days after the challenge, Rockstar came out and said, well done, you've all smashed the North Yankton Nightmare Community Challenge with over 200 million zombies vanquished. Nice work. We're going to deliver the orange glow skeleton onesie and the red hooded skull mask in the coming days. Obviously, they don't want people to stop playing that mode then. Yeah. So they have to issue a new challenge, which on that same day, they said, okay, we're going to up the ante to a new goal of 800 million zombies. And if you are successful, we will reward all players with purple glow and green glow skeleton onesies. As of the time of recording, the community is about halfway there. I think they've killed over 430 million zombies. And you can carry on doing this throughout the week and hopefully earn those new skeleton zombies. Or, as we discovered with the pizza challenge, probably just turn up and load into online, and eventually they'll give it to all of the community anyway.
Just hang on in there and eventually you'll get it for free. That's largely my motto for life. So yeah, just hang in there.
So you can follow the progress if you'd like to at rockstargames.com/GTA-online. Scroll down, you'll see a little banner that is loading up. Once we get to 800 million zombies, we will get those community outfits. So if you are playing, keep going. There is one little bonus for everyone who hasn't seen it yet, although I'm sure if you've all been playing it, you have, that it is set in the North Yankton Cemetery. Michael's grave is there, as it is in the story missions of GTA 5. And if you go and visit the grave, there is actually a hatchet that spawns next to it, which is a lovely reference to the GTA 5 story mode and the Bury the Hatchet mission, where Trevor discovers that, spoilers, it is not Michael's body in Michael's grave. It is, in fact, Brad's body. So that's a nice little nod. And as we said in previous episodes, it's sort of becoming a greatest hits of GTA 5, and little references and things back and callbacks, and hopefully will lead us into GTA 6 at some point.
Yeah, it seems like so far no one's found secret initials on a gravestone that reveal the date of trailer 2. You know, we live in hope. But it's amazing how many people have engaged with it. And I think this is it's a piece of DLC that captures the imagination. I think it's much more memorable than a lot. I mean this with respect, but more memorable than a lot of the things they've done, and taking it back to the core of GTA. Plus, it's zombies. We all love zombies. So,
and as we were saying just before we hit the big red record button, those numbers of 400,000 players is a good chunk of players for a persistent online community. Isn't unbelievable. Like, it's not massive, but this, you know, GTA Online has been going for 13 years now. So I think the people who are jumping in are like the really, really invested hardcore people. And if you've got 400,000 of those people who are just still playing GTA Online pretty consistently, or at least consistently enough to be able to jump back in to play a new mode every now and then, it's a pretty significant number, and probably gives them a good base for setting out what they think is now going to become the people who might jump into whatever the next iteration of GTA Online is going to be. Right, the next small piece of news which has come out in the last week, which I think some people are going to lose their minds over, is that Manni Perez is back on social media after around a 7-month break. And her latest post is her at a gun range firing off some weapons. There's actually also a collection of reels here as well, which are much more un-GTA related. It's much more about like healing and training and reflection and, you know, having a nice time in life. Do I personally think that her being back on social media leads to anything GTA related? No. And I think maybe she actually just needed a mental break from social media, and it feels like a lot of the new posts that are coming up are all about that and like looking after yourself and things. Plus, all of the other things that she was posting would get hundreds of comments of just people going, "Hey, GTA 6, when's it coming?" and all of that kind of thing. Now, there is one thing I wanted to mention. Imagine for 1 second that it is not her, and how much of an effect that would have if every post you put on social media was everyone going, "Oh my God, you're going to be in this game. I'm so excited." And you're not in that game. Like, that's going to probably eventually get to you quite a lot, to be like, you know, first of all, why aren't I in this game?
yeah.
And then imagine all the things that could have happened if I was in this game, but I'm not. But all of these people are like constantly bombarding me with stuff saying, "Oh, you're in this game. Congratulations." Like, that's going to mentally affect you as well.
Yeah, and it's a weird one. I guess that you could say you were linked to a role of this magnitude. You could just come out and say, it's not me. To be clear, it's not me. Now, some people would take that as you're protesting too much, it is you. So you can't win either way. And also, there's an element of, I guess, being strategic and a bit selfish. It's good for someone's career to be projected into the spotlight. Like, Manni Perez has done lots of work in lots of different roles, but isn't like a name profile actor. That's, again, much more so than I am, but, not one of the big Hollywood lure names. This does get you into a different bracket and is probably helpful to a point. But like you say, mentally, the unleashing the internet upon you, especially the sort of GTA fervor internet, is not something you'd want. So, you probably do want a little bit of reflection retreat or a bit of time at the gun range.
Yeah. and that could be many things, but even it's Instagram, right? And even if you had your own Instagram that you were just like, I just want to, post a picture of my lunch, and you can't even do that without people going, oh, look, she's had 22 fries there. Yeah. That probably means something.
She's had a piz for. And that clearly means pizza, and it's trailer 2. Now, it's a shame the gun range wasn't her firing at a gravestone in Ludendorff, firing the initials of trailer 2 into it, but that would not be true, sadly. So
no, all of this really was to say, like, leave her alone for now. Let her post some things on Instagram and all the other social channels that are maybe just, not GTA related. And if and when the time comes that it is revealed that she is or isn't the voice actor, then she can announce that in her own way. But I don't think she's going to do it on a random Instagram reel. No,
I agree. But just to put you on the spot, if you were betting, do you think it's a good chance it's her?
If I was betting, yes. Yeah. There is, I think now it's narrowed down to basically just her. There's maybe a couple of outliers, but if we were guessing, I would say it probably is her.
Yeah, I think that's where I am with it, but not in any tangible way, and neither do I especially think that the reactivation of it. It might be because, as we know, there's probably going to be some activity on GTA 6. You'd expect something this year, right?
Yeah. However, as we have said, previous instances of cast announcement don't come until the game is out. I don't think that's going to change this time. I don't think this new trailer is going to be like, hey, here are your lead character names and here are the stars that are voicing them. Like, that's almost certainly not going to happen. So even if it is her, it's not going to be officially confirmed by Rockstar, I don't think, until
I agree.
Next year.
It's just whether you get the worst thing that maybe you could do is like, Manni Perez post trailer 2 with the eyes emoji or something.
Sure. Yeah.
And you're like, And that stuff does happen. And I mean, when you spoke to Ned Luke recently, Ned talked about, didn't one of his old friends out him in the game?
Yeah. Yeah. As soon as the trailer was released, they were like, oh, they just tweeted going, oh man, my man Ned Luke's in the new GTA game. Congrats, man. But that was, it's one of those things of hundreds of comments that I think probably just got passed over or put in the box of, oh, this could be a thing. Look, it's confirmation. You're never going to get official confirmation, but as you say, anything of any of those people that are rumored to be voice actors interacting with that trailer in any way is a surefire sign to get you laser targeted by people going, see, look, you can't even like the trailer or like comment on it at all, even if you want it.
This is something that it gets total sidebar, but Premier League footballers get in trouble for all the time liking a post. And then instantly, there's headlines and headlines of people going, so-and-so agrees with this opinion. Yeah. It's like, their people might have accidentally liked it because they're on the same label or whatever it is. So, let's wait and see. Please leave her alone in peace and don't ruin her chill after 7 months.
And finally, on the small bits of news roundup this week, I don't want to give this too much airtime because it is clearly fake, but there is a new GTA 6 doing the rounds on social, a new GTA 6 leak, I should say, doing the rounds on social with people going, oh, look, this is a new leak. It's clearly fake. It's an Unreal Engine 5 adaptation. the surefire sign, as many people have commented, is in the first few frames, there's a van on the left-hand side, which has an upside-down Amazon logo on it. So people have not even bothered to really take the logo out of some of these things. It's quite a good fake, I would say. It looks like a street that could have been from GTA 6, but there's a lot of other holes that you can plug into this. So if you see it doing the rounds, it looks like it's, in Vinewood. It's got a big purple car in it. Don't believe the lies is also what I'm going to say.
It's a TikTok account with the word leaks in its title. I'm not even going to say it out loud to give it the oxygen of publicity, but it's clearly launched with what it says is a leak to promote its own facility as a leaks-based account. It just, what does this clip say? Nothing. It's plausible, says nothing. Even if it was true, what would it tell you about the game?
Oh, well, we could have episodes and episodes about it if it was true, Dan. But it isn't.
There will be cars in GTA 6 and you'll be able to get in them in the first person. Yes.
All right, so the main meal, your main meat platter for this week, we are going to have a little look back at Trailer 1 and some things that we not necessarily have missed, but might not have talked about on this show before. Now, why would we do this now? Well, I will say, even when you think you've seen everything, hopefully we can find something new to find in here, or something at least to speculate and debate while we look at these images. I know many of you who listen to this show are like hardcore fans, so it is true that you might have seen all this before. You might have already poured hours and hours over it, but hopefully there's one or two things in here that you will still find interesting. I think there's definitely a couple of things in and amongst these other minor details that we might be able to shed some light on. So, Dan, let's jump straight in. We're going to go sort of in order of the trailer, and hopefully what producer Nathan is going to have to do is jump back and forwards in like very specific frames in here to show some of these things, because they do not last very long. But let's jump in with the opening shot. And some of these things we are just going to gloss over, I should say as well, because there's not really anything you can add to it other than go, hey, that's mildly interesting.
Yes.
Which is basically what most of these things are. So, yes, the first shot, you can see the cars going across the bridge. It has been raining in this shot. You can see puddles which have been left in the road. And I think this is indicative of some of the things we're going to get into. Obviously, we've done a full trailer breakdown before, but it has been 9-10 months since we revisited that trailer on the show properly. We did our big breakdown episode. It was long. We went into lots of details. So we're not going to cover those kind of things in this tiny details. What we are really talking about here is the tiny details that when we did the trailer breakdown aren't really worth mentioning because they don't add a lot to the stuff that we were talking about. But they are hopefully tiny details that show the kind of things that might be happening when we finally get into GTA 6. So yeah, it's raining, Dan. Tick.
Yeah, and there's something to add on puddles. I was Googling this as we speak. Unbelievable, I got something to say about puddles. I was thinking, wouldn't it be cool if the puddle actually degraded and got smaller in real time? Red Dead did that. If you actually put a time... I was just watching a YouTube video where someone put a time-lapse video on the puddles in Red Dead, and you can see it ever so slowly shrink until the point where the puddle is visible, but there's no longer water there because it's just the soil is still damp. That's an amazing detail. So, that's just setting the bar, I guess, for what we expect from GTA 6. I have nothing more to add about puddles.
Oh, okay.
I just think you would expect at minimum that level of kind of environment continuity from Rockstar.
The tech is already there. Why not utilize it in GTA 6? And it sort of ties into what we were talking about last week about if there is going to be any bigger weather implications in flooding and that kind of stuff. How long does it take to somewhere that's flooded? Does that take to dissipate? Like, is that a much longer period of time? Does it do the same thing? There's definitely some things going on here with puddles. So actually more than a tiny detail. Great, let's do that for every one of these things. This beach shot that you can see next up, there are some visible tyre marks on the beach where a truck has obviously driven down the beachfront to the sea and dropped off a boat or some kind of equipment and that kind of thing. I think that's just a nice thing to look at, so you can see that much like in previous GTAs and in, of course, Red Dead, like the snow and the sand deformations are going to remain persistent for a certain period of time, much like those puddles.
Yeah, and again, I'm not going to analyse how the grains of sand sift over time, but it's a nice detail, isn't it? It's a cool, realistic detail.
Yeah, and speaking of realistic details that we want to touch on, in the hotels that you can see on the beachfront, there are beach towels hanging off some of the hotel balconies, and then in the following shot, the next complex or hotel also has rubber rings and lilos on the balconies. So it's just showing the variety of beach furniture that will be on the beaches, but also in the surrounding areas, which is quite a nice realistic detail.
My sidebar to this is someone, I think on the comments for last week's show, had talked about, and I don't know if this is a thing we're allowed to say or not, but like in the original leaks, a lot of people sifted through potential new gameplay mechanics. And one of those that was talked about was the ability to pick up trash and throw it at NPCs. So I'm only saying that because I would love the idea of being able to pick up a beach towel and go, whoop-pow, whoop-pow. Okay. You know that thing where you go,
when you whip people with it.
So to use it as a weapon, like in some of the best kung fu films, would be amazing.
Wow.
Do I actually think that will happen? No. But it would be cool, right? It would be cool.
Yeah. Some kind of hand-to-hand combat that is towel-based.
And and with that sound effect, it goes, whoop-pow.
There you go. We'll get down into the VO booth to add in the towel sounds.
Yeah, the whoop-pow minigame.
Imminently.
Yes.
And then one quick thing in that same shot that you can see, there are 10 people standing on the roof of that building. They are all, looks like in, like couples, or at least they're with friends, just having a chat on the roof. Nothing more to add about that, but thought little detail we might not have mentioned before. Onto the beach scene, and this is where things start to get interesting once we match this up with a shot later on, which I think we'll get to. But for now, if you flick back and forth between a few frames in the shot, you can actually see a heat haze coming off some of the buildings in the background, which is a really nice realistic effect. And, spoiler alert, implies that it is hot, but not just, like pleasant. Like that only happens when it's hot.
Yes.
So another indication of the different types of weather. Will we see heat really affecting things in the game? Maybe. Also, you're probably not going to have any insights over this, Dan. The lady in the green bikini here blinks 3 times during this clip. Could that be sun-related? Is she just, blinking? Who knows?
Does she whisper the words Candyman under her breath and then disappear? I mean, I don't know, but it's a nice attention to detail thing that exists. And I think it's a detail that you absorb without being conscious of it, and it's worth calling it out.
It's something that is a little bit more important, and another attention to detail is in the waves. As the waves crash onto the beach, you can actually see people who are standing in the sea. You can see their reflections appear in the water as the waves go back and forth, which is another very realistic thing, but a nice little detail there. Jumping forwards a little bit into the nightclub scene, and just a little detail here. Obviously, there's money all the way around the place, but the floor of this club is covered in money. Like there's been some kind of, dollar cannon explosion that has just made it. I mean, the sign in the background obviously says like, make it rain Mondays. Possibly that is just what's happened. Like a load of things from the roof have just opened up and bills have fallen from the ceiling for you to just, throw around. But it's definitely more than a normal amount of money that you would see in a club like this. Like it's everywhere. And next we move on to the nighttime scene, and obviously the bridge that goes across the water into the cities. A nice attention to detail here is on the lower left-hand corner, there are actually some disabled parking bays. Now, if you look at this exact same location in real life, surprise, surprise, they are also there in real life. In fact, in real life, it looks like there's only one, and in GTA 6, there are 2 bays. Now, does this suggests that we might be seeing a little bit more inclusivity in GTA 6, and like there's a lot of other things like that, like accessible parking, accessible access to buildings, that kind of stuff. Who knows? But obviously, Lester in GTA 5 went round in a wheelchair quite a lot. It's probably just an extension of that kind of thing.
Yes, and the extent to which GTA actively leads into this is an unknown, and will be an interesting topic to look at. It does sound like we've talked about this on previous shows. There was some degree of philosophical schism between the houses in terms of quite how where a game like GTA that sort of rips everybody, where it draws the line. I think ripping on disabled people would clearly be not very cool. But I don't think this means necessarily it'll be anything more active in that direction. It's just a better representation of the world as it actually is.
Now, this is where things start to get interesting. In this shot, there are, first of all, let's go on to the tiny details. There are 2 flags in the background on one of these buildings. I don't think we've seen these flags in GTA before. If we have, let us know in the comments, please, or get in touch on Twitter at GTA VO'clock. One of them looks like a version of the flag of Peru, but that's only in the sense that it's the same sort of color scheme and it has something in the middle of it. So I don't know if we can read too much into that. I can't find any instances of that kind of flag being in a GTA game before, but I think that's just going to be another version of speculation. Of course, if we have seen it, as I say, let me know. Now, the most interesting thing for me to talk about in this shot is the 3 ladies that we have on the right-hand side. And are these the same ladies that we have seen on the beach from earlier in the trailer? We can probably put a side-by-side up on screen here. Just before we came down, it was something Dan wandered over and we had a little discussion about. I think, to put it out there, at minimum, these are the same character models with different outfits and hairstyles on. At least 2 out of the 3 of them look like that could be the case. Are they the same characters or like the same NPC people? I think that is maybe slightly more up for debate. I don't know if you've had any extra thoughts in the last half an hour, Dan.
No, I mean, I'm pulling a funny face as I say this because we look quite carefully at this on screen. I think you can talk yourself into believing that not only do they ostensibly look similar, that they are in fact the same people, but who've changed their hairstyles. Or like, one woman has got more afro hair and in the picture on the beach, maybe she's tied it back. There's one woman who's, you would say, again, given the level of detail we can actually zoom into, you suspect it's the same body shape. Is she literally the same person? I don't know. There's 3 of them in both shots. They're not symmetrical to the point where they stand in the same order. Like the women change order in the row they walk in.
But I think that's a realistic,
Well, of course, we don't walk in formation, do we?
Yeah. Almost must be on your left-hand side.
But I mean, what I'm saying is because this isn't real life and it is authored and it's a decision, someone at Rockstar who saw the trailer out, to what extent is this an authored decision to dangle a pertinent detail in plain sight? And this is all blink and you'll miss it stuff in real time, so you wouldn't really think about it. But when you put the 2 side by side, I guess the most conspiratorial view on it, or authored view on it, is that it's deliberate and there's some significance to the 3 characters. That I'm not saying I think that, but I'm saying that's the most conspiratorial view of it, where you would say, is there a reason? There's enough evidence there to go, there's one frame where apart from the guy on the floor, they are the main focus. And then they also the main focus of the beach. Is there any more significance you can ascribe to it? I don't know. Like, I'm not going to go out and make any crazy prediction, but perhaps, if Rockstar think about their trailers in the way that we analyse them, which I imagine they do, maybe.
I think what you can see from this is the woman in the middle of both shots is wearing like a white sort of sarong tie-up kind of piece of clothing, which is tied and positioned in exactly the same way in both shots.
Yeah.
The woman on the right-hand side of the beach shot, who then moves over to the left-hand side of the street shot, is wearing a bracelet, which is the same bracelet that she's wearing in both shots. So I think this is what makes me lean into they're clearly using some of the same outfit choices, which would lead you to think maybe that they are the same people. And I think, as you were saying, if you were reviewing this trailer, of which I'm sure they do many, many times, at some point, I'm sure someone would have gone, wait a minute, aren't those the same character models? And if they're at front and center of both of these scenes, maybe we should think about changing them. Given, and that's going down the line that this is all a random occurrence and should just be a representation of the city and things like that. It feels slightly odd to me if in fact we are saying, that they could be the same people, why you wouldn't swap that out if you just wanted it to be a random street scene and a random beach scene.
Yeah, I agree. And again, without knowing how they create NPCs in GTA 6, I don't imagine that each of them is bespoke and hand-drawn, for example. They're not going to hand-draw 10,000 unique characters.
They'll have the sliders of hairstyle, clothing,
body type, A, B, C, D, E, ethnicity, this, bracelet, A, B, C, D, E, F. But if that's the case, it does feel like there's a degree of communality in their pattern. I can't believe I'm talking about it in this level, but like there feels like there's
because we are
I know
10 months after the trailer,
and this is what it does. It drives you mad. You're seeing pictures in the tea leaves, but there's a degree of there's enough symmetry there to make you question it, and then that's a choice on Rockstar's part, or an oversight. It's another way to look at it, where they did it and went, oh, actually, we didn't sufficiently randomize these pedestrians, and maybe in the big picture, they were worried about other things. And, so it's either that or it is more significant, question mark. I don't have a strong view on that, but I'd not thought about it until you looked at the two side by side. And then you actually go, maybe.
Yeah. So, if all being well, we do get a second trailer at some point in the next few months, it'll be interesting to see if any of these people from trailer 1 pop up again. And we can start to then connect the dots and be like, okay.
And can you imagine they're the new Michael, Franklin and Trevor of GTA 6?
I cannot imagine that.
No, I cannot imagine that either. But dare you imagine?
Right, we're jumping forward now to something that's probably got less things to talk about, which is on the shot with who we're calling Lucia at the top of the hotel. You can see there's actually like tiny dirt and weeds growing around the edge of the pool in a very realistic fashion. So I think all of these things that we're going to talk about just adds to the realism of the game and things that we might expect to see if you really, really zoom into the details. In this next shot, there is a restaurant in the top right-hand side. The phone number for this restaurant is 305-555-0127. And there's actually a speech bubble on the wall with some text inside it that reads Salhaba Español, which translates to Spanish spoken. Is this an indication of well, it's definitely an indication of the different districts we're going to get in the game, but could some of those districts exclusively speak a certain language, or at least, that is their first language? Who knows? But interesting to see like Spanish being represented because of what we'll get into later. Big debating point here in this next shot, Dan. There is a guy leaning on his car. Now, is he leaning on his car waiting to fill it up? There are also 3 cars in the forecourt around the pumps. I mean, this is just all leaning towards refueling, which I know is one of the things that you love.
Well, as long as it's NPCs refueling, and not me.
Right.
As a realism-creating background detail, the NPCs can fill their cars as long and as much as they want. For
just
me,
you can't.
My views, to reiterate my views, my views on this. So there we go.
Moving on to one of the first-person-esque scenes, which is the one when the police raid the apartment. There is actually the word Ravens written on the right-hand side of the wall here. Now, this could indicate a gang name or something like that, or it could just be that someone's written Ravens on the wall. But Ravens feels a little bit more significant given its location and that it's outside of a room that the police are about to raid. Couple of other quick details. The guy who's out of his car, which you can see on screen, his T-shirt, I think, says "The Bite Back in Leonida," which is sort of missing the words "putting the" somehow, but his T-shirt isn't big enough to have those words. So maybe it's an implication that that guy is there putting the bite back into Leonida. But that was a nice little detail. We've poured over this screenshot of the Florida man in jail before. The interesting note here, I guess, is, as we've covered, this text is also in Spanish, which just ties the link between that building we just talked about and a bit more of a Spanish influence. Couple more here. There's a shop in the background of this scene with the motorbikes called, I think, Jenny's Food Depot, and what could be a flag of Haiti. Now, Haiti is just southeast of Cuba in real life, which feels a little bit further away than we thought we might be going. And now this could just be, representation of different cultures in the world, but it shows how far those cultures might have spread down into those islands. Or, it could just be someone's painted some different colored lines on the building, but a good indication of even more cultural significance there. This guy, I'm sure we covered when we did the full trailer analysis, but he's wearing a Righteous Slaughter Blood Ops, I think that says, T-shirt, which obviously in GTA is the parody of the Call of Duty series, and this is the parody of Call of Duty Black Ops series, which I think is new for GTA. It used to just be Righteous Slaughter was just Call of Duty, but obviously in recent times we've had numerous iterations of Black Ops. This is GTA's version of Call of Duty Black Ops.
Yeah, that's a nice detail. I love that GTA feels it has the power and sanctimony to call out or lampoon another franchise, to call it Righteous Slaughter. I don't know how COD would respond were it to name GTA. Send your suggestions in the comments.
And the last couple of shots in the trailer then, Lucia and her partner in crime, Jason, walking through this convenience store. On the far left-hand side of this shop, there are T-shirts in packets hanging up on the wall. They are all in different colours and sizes. So maybe you can go into convenience shops like this and buy pretty regular-looking T-shirts, but they are in the shop. As they walk through the shop, you can also see that the ceiling tiles are not properly put back in place. Either someone has been up there rummaging around, or they've just been nudged out of place somehow. They haven't been put in. And as the car drives away and past this gun shop, you can see that the pawn shop number is 305-555 pawn, which is actually 305-555-7296. The numbers in GTA 5 all started with 346. Well, not all of them, but some of the most prominent ones started with 346, which is obviously the area code. Now, this pawn shop number and the number from the restaurant earlier all start with 305-555, which leads me to believe that the area code for what possibly is going to be Vice City is going to be 305-555. So this is probably the thing that you'll be putting in your phone for most of the locations in and around Vice City. Obviously, as you get further away, those area codes will probably change into something else. But it looks like the main area is going to start 305-555, something. And I'm sure you're all aware, but just in case, the reason it is 555 is that is the sequence of numbers that they use in all films now, since I think the early 90s, maybe even before that. Every phone number you see in a film will always have 555 in it because it's a number that is not used in any capacity.
Oh,
so
I didn't know that.
Oh,
so
well,
there we go. I've learned something.
Facts. Yeah, anything you see in film or entertainment will probably have 555 in there somewhere if it's a US-based thing, just so if you try and call it, it won't work. Obviously, in this case, in the game, if you try and call it, it will work. But if you do it from an IRL location, most of the time, you'll get nothing. Obviously, there were some numbers in GTA 5 that did work in real life, if I'm remembering correctly. But this one will be one of the ones that you phone up in-game. And finally, in the very last shot, as they bust into this convenience store, the car that they have been driving looks like it's got some very minor bodywork damage on it, which isn't in the previous shot when we see them screeching around the corner. Don't know what has happened to that car. All we can do is say, looks like it's got a little dent in it, which they haven't quite managed to fix yet. So there you go. I think that's just over 20 tiny, tiny details, pretty rapid fire that you might have missed in trailer 1. If you've seen anything else, please let us know in the comments and get in touch on Twitter at GTAVOclock or send us an email, gtavio'clock@gmail.com. Just before we go, Take-Two, Dan, has another earnings call coming up. It's going to be held on November the 6th. Shall we start a new countdown? Yes, we shall. 3 weeks to go.
You've just halved it as we speak. That's amazing. Yes.
From 6 to 3. 3 weeks to go until that November the 6th date. There is actually some precedent here. This was last year. This was sort of the start of the we'll be sharing some more info very soon countdown, which did end up being December for trailer 1. Are we going to get any information or news like that in the lead up or on November the 6th? Who knows? But it's fun to have something else to look forward to. So yes, we will keep
It's the last
down.
beat this calendar year. The earnings calls are quarterly. This is the chance. I'm not, putting down my official marker or flag, but I do think there's a chance they will start hinting quite heavily of something to happen. And I'm still confident there will be something pre-Christmas or New Year.
If something was going to happen, that would be the time to at least start mentioning it.
Yeah, and otherwise, and the alternative is they go an entire year with nothing.
Which obviously they have done before in previous iterations.
Yeah.
But going beyond a year.
And for a game that's due out in 2025, as far as we know, and in terms of everything they've said, it just feels a little bit bold.
So join us next week and we will continue that countdown and cover all of the news from the week, all of the leaks and rumours and things that you want us to look into. It will all be here on next week's episode of GTA 6 O'Clock.